Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Before I go on, I want to apologize if my voice sounds different since I'm coming down with a cold and hopefully it's nothing more serious. Today we'll go over the Dispellers of Dissidia Final Fantasy over Omnia. When I say Dispellers, I mean the unit that can remove buffs from the enemies and not debuffs from your own team. I call that cleansing. Dispelling has become more and more important as the game progresses, so it's always good to have one or two units that can do the job in your roster just in case you may need them. Let me know in the comments section down below how many of these units you have in your roster ready to go. If you want, you can check out my previous video regarding the tanks of the game or my tier list videos, which are based on my opinion per unit. All of them will be listed in the video description down below. So let's get started. Of course, we are starting with the poster boy of the company that gave us this amazing game. Cloud as a unit was never really out of the picture from the very beginning, whether you were using him for his launches or for his clutch paralyzes. He was always useful throughout the game. Once Cloud received his EX+, he became a monster in damage, being able to do up to 120,000 damage with his EX every other turn. One of his reworks also gave him the ability to guarantee a paralyze whenever you used his finishing touch the previous turn. Even though his dispelling ability is locked behind limit breaking, the World of Illusions weapon, which is now available in the weapon token shop for only 10 tokens, he can dispel freely whenever he crits a target with any kind of ability, and his own critical chance up buff helps with that immensely. Cloud is not the fastest character out there, which is a double-edged sword for the character because on one hand he doesn't take too many turns, on the other hand it enables his EX to be up every other turn. Last, I want to mention that Cloud provides 4 total buffs to himself, making it hard for other units to buff him without pushing some of his buffs off him. Yuffie has become a meme in the game ever since her early days, but right now she's nothing but a powerhouse. She doesn't just dispel buffs from enemies, she steals them. All of Yuffie's skills are quite impactful and packed if you think about it. Her snatch steals a random buff from your target, while shaving with gravity, which almost always guarantees a break. Her second skill, I don't need this, throws back all of the debuffs on Yuffie to all enemies while applying her own debuffs as well, and also cleansing one debuff from each ally in the process. All that while battering the party and dealing damage to all enemies. With her new EX+, Yuffie inflicts a powerful unique debuff to all enemies, making them unable to battery or buff themselves, keeping them in check at all times. Yuffie can do almost anything to a certain amount, and even though her dispelling and cleansing has RNG behind them, it will rarely hurt your run. Everyone's favorite Final Fantasy XIII debuffer with an Australian accent, Vanya. That's a sentence you probably thought you would never hear. Vanya is a very speedy unit with a pretty fast EX that is up every other turn despite how fast Vanya is. She has the ability to dispel in two ways. The first is with her skill called Dispel, of all things, and the second way, which is my favorite, is with her new EX+. If you invest 3 ingots in her weapon, then whenever her assassination debuff goes off, she will dispel 2 buffs from the target, and that happens very consistently. I would also like to mention Vanille's Sphere, which can enable any character to dispel a buff from the enemy whenever they break them, which I'm sure a lot of people have already used on their Aranea. It's a very unique sphere and it's very useful for anyone with the rebreak ability, giving them free dispels, much like Cloud's World of Illusion weapon. I personally plan to use her sphere on Vayne on the upcoming month. Both of Vanille's base skills do AoE shaving while battering the party, which is amazing, while her debuffs are among the most potent in the game. Vanille is unfortunately dependent on the enemy being debuffed, otherwise her damage becomes really low and she doesn't have access to her aura. Last, I want to mention that even though her HP plus has also some kind of party battery behind it, it's almost never worth using. Everyone's favorite sky pirate Balthier. This guy was never in the spotlight until he got his EX plus. Sure, he's doing the same thing before his EX plus weapon, but having one made him more consistent and made his damage keep up with today's content. All of Balthier's skills will steal random buffs from all of your targets or target in great aim case. That makes him probably the most consistent dispeller in the game, being able to do the job with any of his skills while choosing the one that fits his situation the best at every turn. Balthier becomes average in single target fights, and thankfully those are very rare nowadays, and his HP plus can be considered outdated even though it's unlocked via his EX weapon, which is fairly new. Balthier can cleanse himself from debuffs with his EX and aim shot, making him really hard to put in check by enemies. A personal favorite of mine, Faris. If you've been following this channel before the Cosmos era, you'll remember how I tried to feed in Faris in any EX stage we had at the time, even really unfavorable ones like Deuce EX. Faris got her EX Plus during Agria's Lost chapter, and it came with one of the most amazing designs we've had to date. Faris is a slow unit with a slow EX, which isn't what you always want from a character, and her EX has 3 elements behind it, them being wind, water and thunder, which makes her more vulnerable to absorb bosses. On the other hand though, Faris has strong AoE shaving potential both with her EX and her cannon fire. Her cannon fire is her bread and butter, which also debuffs all enemies and dispels all of their buffs. One problem with this skill is that the dispelling part happens after your brave hits, which can sometimes lower your damage. Last, I want to mention that she offers some party utility through her aura, which increases the party's max brave but also speed, something that is very rare in the game, and her whirlpool buff, which provides increased overflow to the party and turns her low speed to an advantage. Whirlpool shaves the enemy whenever they take a turn, while battering the whole party based on the brave damage that you did with it. It's a very powerful effect, which is why it's only for 2 of Faris' turns after she uses her EX. Shout out to Ingwelder of the Tomberry Troop for letting me know that Lion is also a dispeller, which I would have missed otherwise. I gotta say that Lion's damage is pretty good for today's standards, even without an EX plus, and also with the right conditions. That is, making sure that the enemy doesn't target her, which can be achieved easily with a tank in your team. Her EX recharge is pretty slow, which is kinda unfortunate, because that's her source of her dispelling. But when she uses it, she dispels all buffs from all enemies, which is quite nice. She has some good longevity with her EX restoring 1 use of her sneak attack each time you use it. Lion receives her EX realization on one of the best banners in the Chaos era, featuring Aphmos EX as well, and Lion becomes a very potent damage dealer when that happens, so I would recommend pulling on that banner, especially if you're missing both of the EX weapons on it, even though Aphmo is definitely the prize. There's really not much to say about Sid at this point of the game, to be honest. He has his base EX, which can delay all enemies by 1 turn, but the recharge is slow and so is he as a unit. He does provide some party healing with his Dragon HP attack if he is at full HP when he uses it. His dispelling ability is also quite limited because he only gets 6 uses out of his Dragon Dive. Thankfully, in the future Sid gets an EX realization as well as a rework, giving him more skill uses on his base skills and more damage overall, but you'll most likely never use Sid as a main dispeller in your party if you have other options. I'm sorry, big guy. That was it for the dispeller units we currently have in the game, guys. I've heard a lot of positive feedback for the previous video, so this is something So if this is something you would like, let me know in the comments. Like the video if you did, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you like my content, because it really helps me going. The whole world is in a total lockdown, so please avoid any unnecessary physical contact, even with your close friends. Don't risk the safety of the people you live with, like your family or your loved one. Take care everyone, and I'll see you in my next video. See ya!